Everybody, live from Jerusalem, welcome back to Redemption Thursdays with Rabbi Pinchas Winston, sponsored by the Miriam Project Geula Hour and Josh Wander of Israel Torah. Tonight, Rabbi Winston is going to tell us the secret of survival. We had many beautiful shirim on Rosh Hashanah and the importance of it, and we're going to talk, he'll tell us. I'm sure some of the topic will be about Yom Kippur and how to look forward to preparing ourselves for a new year, Yom Kippur, and the Geula Shalema and Mashiach, I hope. Thank you. We'll check out his website, everybody. Read his books, 36.org. Thank you for joining us, Rabbi.
Thank you. It's actually not a misnomer, but it needs some explanation, the idea of a survival tactic. And the reason why is because it's a little bit confusing as you go deeper into concepts and ideas on a shot level and a simple everyday level. We have this thing called free will. We have Bechira. We make choices. We say Usana Tokef on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Musaf about how Kosh Baruch Hu decides who's going to live, who's going to die, how they're going to die, and we daven about how we're going to live, about getting all the things we need the upcoming year, and the brachas, the blessings that we want. There's also the discussion to itself, what to ask for, what not to ask for, and how we should look at things like that. It's a large package with a lot of details. But we're given the impression that it makes a big difference. I mean, we spend a lot of time, we invest a lot of ourselves into the whole process and trying to make a difference to our future by the free will choices that we make. And it's not exactly clear whether it even makes a difference in the end, because you have contradictory midrashim and stories. I mean, on one hand, you have rabbis in the Talmud, for example, knowing that their death is close, giving advice to their children, their sons, about what to do and how to carry themselves throughout their lives, and the roles they're supposed to play. And then you have other things that, like midrashim, the medrash from Kohel's Rebbe, for example. It talks about how everything is basically decided from the moment Hashem made creation. The first base of Bereshit history was all laid out, and more likely who's going to die and when they're going to die. It's even the Gemara says that these are things that one of the things we can't know is the day of our death, but apparently there is some it's cut off from us. Not that Hashem doesn't know what he's going to find out himself. He knows, obviously, because he knows the future at the same time. He knows the past and then the present. It's all one thing for him. It's only present by Hashem. So our day of death is known to him, but he doesn't share it to us. We live our lives out. But for the most part, it seems like from the time that we're born, the day that we're going to die is pretty much decided. And on top of that the Rizal explains in Shar HaGilgulim, there are certain parameters, certain conditions that actually impact how long a person can live. There are certain types of souls, he explains, because they're the root that they come from or where they are, the type of soul that they are. That means that every time the person comes back into this world, they're going to have a short life. And every Gilgul, every incarnation, and et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of things that seem to indicate that when we're going to die is a fixed reality. But there are some things that say the opposite. For example, the Gemara in Tainus talks about, I think it's Chagiga, that talks about how the Malach HaMavet sent one of his messengers to get a certain woman. It was her time to die, and the Shaliach made a mistake and brought back another person with the same first name, but was a different person altogether, and she was dead because he took her soul and came back to the angel of death, and he said, "You brought me the wrong person." He says, "Should I put her back?" He says, "No, she's already here anyhow. So we'll no returns." And she died seemingly prematurely, and not only that, but they had these extra years of life that for some reason had to be lived by anybody, not just her. So it says that they took those years and they gave them to a certain tzaddik that he lived longer. Chizki HaMelech, because he did not get married and did not have children and fulfill the mitzvah of Privya, almost died 15 years early. He had a reason. He was doing L'Shem Shemaim. He wanted to get married. He wanted to have children. He wanted to have grandchildren, all these things that most people want. But he had a prophecy that Menashe would be born from him, who was going to take the country back from the righteousness that he brought them from his father, back to the Avodah Zorah that his father once had, everyone doing it in his time as well. And he wanted to avoid that. To save the Jewish people, he was prepared to avoid getting married and have a child. Then Yeshua was told by Hashem to tell him, can't do that, can't second guess God, you do the best you can to fulfill the mitzvahs, raise your child to be a tzaddik. If he doesn't end up being a tzaddik, it becomes Menashe, which he did for 22 some odd years, then nothing you could do, but that's hashgacha pratis. And then they gave him back his 15 years. But it sounded like he could, in fact, leave earlier. And even though he got back for 15 years, it says after that even still he didn't live out his full life. And I think Rav Dimi, who was a reincarnation of some sort later on in the future, he lived out there's all cheshbon that the Rizal has. So it seems that it's not so decided, unless that was already decided. Like, you say that you have until this point, but really you don't, because it was already decided you're going to die earlier, but you're giving the impression you're going to die later because maybe somehow that affects your free will, if you even have free will in the first place, because we see, we do. It doesn't make a difference whether it's logical or not. As someone pointed out to me last week, that if you ask a person why they do something, for example, a mitzvah or anything for that matter, you ask them why they do it, they'll give you an answer. If you ask them why on that, they might give you another answer. But if you keep asking why about why you do something, eventually you'll hit a wall. You don't have an answer anymore. And it's like you start to realize that how much am I being manipulated? How much am I being programmed, either by Shemaim or by society? But even if it's by society, it's really Shemaim doing it in the end. So, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on. So really, is there really a survival tactic? Or are we just fooling ourselves? Is there something that we can do to save ourselves, or is it already been sealed? I mean, people who were alive last Rosh Hashanah, who thought they would live another year out, or during coronavirus, for example, they didn't have a chance to have a natural death. They got sick instead, and unfortunately they died. They passed away because of, even to this very day, some people are still passing away because of vaccines even, like who by vaccine and who by this. And it's very complicated. So is there really a survival tactic? And if there's not, then what are we trying to do over here? What are we trying to accomplish the entire thing? Because a person could throw their arms up and they could say, listen, we both know God, it's already been decided. Whatever's going to happen, how long I'm going to live, how I'm going to go, right? Because you already know anyhow. So what difference does it make? What does it change? So it's like when you're a little child or you're a kid, even as an adult, you can do it as well. But you think to yourself, I'm going to do this way. No, but if I do it that way, then God will know and he'll stop me. So instead I'll do it that way, because that way I'll go against the logic of it. No, but he'll figure that one out too. So therefore you go back and forth. You have about 15 different things that you're going to change to try to outsmart God and do and get away with what you want. And in the end, the last thing you chose to do, that's what God expected. Because anyhow, like we said before, he already knows the future. You don't know the future. You don't know what you're going to decide down the road, but he does, and therefore he's already planned for it in the end. But it's all said and done. What are we really trying to accomplish? So rather than in war, there are tactics for survival. There are things you can do. There are things, there are strategies that you can implement, that you can follow, in learning, in life in general, in business, it's called the jungle, and you have to survive there as well. And there's survival tactics, taking time off, taking breaks, making sure you only associate with the right types of people, and the things that you seem to need to be able to survive. Does it work that way in life in general? If I feel burned out and I feel, too much pressure, right? Do we, take a break? That's a survival tactic. But did I change anything by that, or was that always in the cards in the first place? Or more than that, was that Hashem pushing me to take a break? Did Hashem create the scenario, the situation that led me to make that decision? A lot of times we make decisions in life because the circumstances, not even all the time. were making decisions in life because of their circumstances. And, I didn't plan to get tired like this. I didn't plan to wake up the next morning, have a rough night of sleep, and the next morning be half asleep during davening. And so in order to make sure that I would be awake, I put my head down for all of 10 minutes, took off time from my learning to be able to do that. It was never part of my plan, but the situation and the circumstances forced me to do that. I never planned to have to, to speak to this person about a specific thing and put myself out there and put myself in the line, but they forced me to, because those are the circumstances. This is the way Hashem moves us around all the time. Whenever, a situation occurs that you don't plan for, you're pushed to do something as a shgacha pratis, right? And it's like, why me? Why now? Why this thing? Why is this happening? Because Hashem is making it happen, because He wants something from us. He wants it to do something. It may be to meet somebody, right? You go, if to travel for some reason, you didn't plan to travel, right? You have to go someplace because you had to get something or meet somebody, and because of that, you had to change your schedule and go downtown or take a plane or take a train or whatever, But you're being pushed around, manipulated the entire time, and you're not always conscious of it. A person who understands that's how Hashem works, and Be'ez Hashem haises us, he nifas beinenu. This is what David HaMelech says. He says, this is from Hashem, that which is wondrous in our eyes. And we discussed this idea many times before in the past, but it's always applicable. If something is unusual, changes the pattern, forces you to look at things differently for whatever reason, to change your schedule, that's called overt hashgacha pratis. Hashem wants something. He's forcing you to have to go one way or the other way, to experience something that perhaps you wouldn't have thought to experience. I mean, it's an amazing thing how many times you find in life how you get insights from situations you didn't plan to experience, to go through. You get from people you never thought that they could give them to you. But somehow being there at that moment in that way specifically, you could never have orchestrated it to be like that. But that's hashgacha pratis. Hashem can orchestrate it to be like that. And there are people who live their lives understanding that. They live their lives knowing that everything is like Hashem. They even wake up in the morning. If they don't say it, they think it, right? I can't wait to see what you have planned for me today. I have my schedule. I've worked it out. I thought through what I should be doing with myself. I get up at this time. I go do what I do. I daven, whatever, and I have breakfast a certain way every single, but things will happen in the course of my day. It might be a blackout. All of them is a blackout, right? Middle of summer, and air conditioners, whatever it is, and that blackout changes your plans, right? Or you get a phone call from somebody you haven't heard from the longest time, and you'd like to get rid of them, but you can't because it's not polite, and that changes your schedule, and it just keeps knocking things around. It's like those cars at the amusement park that kids go into. They bump into each other and they bump off in the reverse way, and you don't know where you're going to go next. But somebody comes up, boom, it pushes this, and that's life for the most part. That's what's always going on, and we try to protect ourselves from that. We try to make, a very isolated environment. And I'm just as guilty as the next person. I can tell you that for sure. We try to create a scenario to limit the amount of times that might happen to us. We don't like pain. We don't like to have our schedules changed. We like kavias. When it comes to ruchnis and spirituality, not so much. That's really the Torah attacks us because He doesn't want us to learn. He doesn't want us to do mitzvahs. But when it comes to more material comforts, the physical lifestyle that we're living, we try to do things exactly the same way every time. The guy gets up in the morning the same time every single day. He works out. He gets his coffee, exactly the same type of coffee, same coffee shop, the same time. It's even waiting for him when he comes in at this point in time. He gets to work. It's almost sudar. And all of a sudden, something happens to knock his schedule, and he goes to pieces because he's not used to this. So we try to limit this. There's two types of people in the world, and you see them all the time, right? They're people who respond to reality by changing everything else around. They don't want to change. They want to hear. They don't want to talk about the idea. They don't want to entertain the possibility that maybe they're wrong and change their way of life. They're too afraid. They go to pieces. So instead, they try and change everything else around them. And there are other people who understand that life is an ongoing opportunity for growth, to change, to become better, to know more, to come closer to Hashem. And when something happens that is difficult for them because it rubs them the wrong way, so to speak, it goes against the grain, so then it becomes difficult for them to not take advantage of the opportunity. And rather than trying to change the world around them, they change themselves, and that's difficult. That's musr. That's what personal. That's what self-growth is all about. And Hashem is constantly giving us opportunity to do exactly that. But if a person closes himself off, they close themselves off because they're afraid of change. They're afraid to go through any type of experience that's outside the box for them, and they just won't budge. So that they're safe in some respects, but not in the way that matters the most. In other words, we talk about survival tactics. I can't tell you how to guarantee to live another year. That's not in my hands. That's not my knowledge. I don't think anybody has that. There are plenty of people who've gone to Geula Ador for a brucha, that they should survive their situation. They should survive it and come out of it, and they died that year anyhow. Even when they were Nevi'im. Okay, maybe it was a little bit different by Nevi'im because they could talk to God, and maybe it was a different type of level hashgacha pratis. But today especially, it's not so. You can get as many brachos as you want, but if it's in the cards, it's in the cards. And Kosh Baruch Hu, has to work it out that everything goes according to his master plan. So survival doesn't necessarily mean that a person's going to live another year. Survival means that a person's going to live while they live. In other words, that to make sure a person, as the result says, he may be destined to live 18 years, 26 years. That's it. Even though it looks like they died accidentally because something happened that was an accident. They got into a car crash, God forbid, or they took some type of medication that was not healthy for them, God forbid. Whatever this scenario might be, they had a heart attack. At the age of people in their 20s have heart attacks. So it's important that, that a person understand that even in a situation like that where it looks like it's accidental, it's not. It's in the world it's accidental, and the person who caused it might be held responsible for the accident. But it's all hashgacha pratis. Even there's 100-car pileup on the highway, every single person who's there and the way they're affected, some more serious, some less serious, it's all been orchestrated by Kosh Baruch Hu exactly according to the master plan for creation in those people's lives. That's not the issue. That's not what we're talking about. And you think about it, we know that. We know no one came here tonight to find out, some specific. I don't think so. I hope not. Right? To find out, what can this person tell me that I can use as a way to bribe God on Yom Kippur. I got this far, so I obviously survived Rosh Hashanah. But on Yom Kippur, if God was thinking, he's not coming out of the Yasser make tshuva so well, and I'm thinking maybe perhaps it's time to go and, here, God, take this. Oh, well, that tips the scales. That's better. Okay, I can give you another year for that. No one came for that. I don't have that. Who does? Right? That's not the issue. Survival in the ultimate sense, and you have to think about this very, very seriously because it's a little bit upside down from the way we live. Everybody's walking on the ceiling and they think it's the floor. You got to get back to the floor. The Gemara says this. The Gemara says Reshub ben Levi, his son, became very ill and he died. He had not even a near-death experience. He died. He literally died, but he came back to life again. I guess it's called a near-death experience. If you don't stay dead, then you came back. I guess you came close to dying. But when he came back, he said the most incredible thing. His father said to him, "What did you see?" And he said that, I saw an upside-down world. Everybody who's up over here was down over there. Anyone who's ever down over here was up over there, right? And only those who came with Torah in their hand, that's what they had. That's what they kept. And right. And his father says back to him, he said, "You didn't see an upside-down world. You saw the world the way it's supposed to be. This is the upside-down world. This is the world that people are walking the ceiling when they should be walking the floor." What does that even mean? What are we supposed to do with that here? So, we have a difficult time with this idea because we're so embedded in Elom Hazeh. We're so embedded in this world. We are such a part of this world. It's like we're physical. Like it is like almost like an attachment to the wall with a table because we're all part of the same world. This idea of Olam Haba, of this eternal reality that one day we're going to go to, if we merit, but God willing we will, right? It's like where it lasts forever, which is a long time, right? And it's like the pleasure is insurmountable. The Chazal tell us that all the pleasures of this world cannot even come close to an hour of pleasure in Olam Haba. So it's like beyond comprehension. But no one has gone and come back to talk about it. We just know about it in a very general sense. Even Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't talk about it because he only could speak about that which he had a prophecy of. And as the Maharal points out, he could not have a prophecy of Olam Haba, the world to come. So it remains the biggest mystery of all history. And an Emunah, more than anything else. So, as a result of that, everything is in this world. Even the concept of a soul, a neshama, which we believe in. And, what's the proof of the soul even exists? It's not so hard to prove. It's amazing that people have difficulty with it because just ask a person a simple question. Have you ever shared something with somebody else that you wanted to keep for yourself? Have you ever put yourself at risk for somebody else? We've all heard stories of people during wartime who have literally caused themselves to get killed by saving somebody else. They didn't want to die necessarily. They were hoping to somehow make it, but they knew the chances were great they were going to get shot or killed or blown up. And some people even jumped on a grenade to soften the impact with his body, blowing himself to pieces while other people survived because of it. The body doesn't do that. The body runs away from that. The body is instinctual. Take a look around. Rav Noach used to ask people, you love pleasure? Rav Noach Weinberg. You love pleasure? And they'd say, sure, I love pleasure. You'd say, really? Yeah, I live for pleasure. Great, fantastic. What would you do if I told you I can show you how to get more pleasure from life? Would you come with me? There's a rabbi. He wants me to go to yeshiva. No. He said, but I'm telling you, I promise you, you can leave whenever you want. We're not going to lock the door, right? But I will show you in 3 weeks' time how to maximize your pleasure in life more than you're getting right now. You want to come? No. You don't love pleasure. If someone says to you, do you like money? Yes. Do you want to make more of it? 100%. Come with me for 3 weeks and I'll show you how to make more money. You go. Most people, if you know the person, you can trust the person, you go because you like money, you want more of it. The books that sell every single day and make millions if not billions of dollars telling people how to make more money, and people buy one after the other. Even though the last one didn't work so well and the one before that even worked less, they'll still buy the next one because they want to make money. They love money, so they're going to invest in this. So you love pleasure? Come, I'll teach you to have more pleasure. No. So he would tell you don't love pleasure, you love comfort, because that's what the body loves. He'd ask, what's the opposite of pain? Pleasure. No, wrong. It's not. The opposite of pain is not pleasure, because you see in life, a lot of the greatest pleasures we have come through pain, like raising children, for example, and working and getting degrees, and sports, rising to the top of, sports and whatever people do. And certainly when it comes to learning Torah, the fum sarang, according to the effort, is the reward. And from that reward, that's part of the pleasure. So pain and pleasure are not mutually exclusive and often come together. So then what is the opposite of pain? No pain. Comfort. That's where the body comes from. The body is coming from a desire to avoid pain and only have comforts. It's not comfortable to jump on a grenade and give up your life. It's not comfortable to share something you want with somebody else who's less fortunate. This is exactly what Hitler, Yamashma B'Zicharo, tried to impress upon the world population. He said the Jewish people brought two things to mankind. It's killing us: circumcision and conscience. This idea of helping the poor is weakening mankind. He said, look at the survival of the fittest in the jungle. If you can't make it, you die. And you become prey for somebody else. You don't pray for somebody else, you become prey for somebody else. It should be that way in the human world too. Mankind would become a stronger species if the people who are weak and poor and whatever died off, and only the strong survive. And the Jews are coming along and saying just the opposite. Yeah. So, that's coming from the body. That's the way the body thinks. It's instinctual. That's the Yitzhar. Yitzhar is mostly instinct for the most part. When you want to have that extra piece of cake, you shouldn't have. You want to have that food with questionable texture. You want to do that thing. You want to look at that. Whatever you're doing, it's because somehow it gives the body pleasure. The soul derives no pleasure from anything that's illicit in this world. So then when you do something that's the N word, noble, that's not the body. The body will never do something noble unless it somehow is going to translate into some kind of comfort for the body. For example, everyone's going to pat you on the back and say, great job, you're a hero and all that. And we're going to pay you, $100 million because you're such a hero. Like, okay, so then, but that's not noble. That's not doing it for noble reasons. For altruistic reasons, that's the neshama, that's the soul. But we're distant from that. So, Baruch Hashem, for those who have been able to live by Torah and have mitzvahs and all that, you see, but even still, davening becomes very mechanical. Doing mitzvahs becomes very mechanical because it's almost like taking black paint and white paint and making gray, so to speak, right? And I was like, the soul is not so powerful in the person. Otherwise, it'd be doing mitzvahs with tremendous kavanah and love, and davening with tremendous intention, because the soul's in charge and the soul understands the power of this opportunity. But when the soul's not so in charge, it's in charge enough for whatever reason that the person's still keeping Torah and doing mitzvahs, but not so in charge that the body can't have its say and its way. So then it becomes like a mixture, a gray mixture, where the person, yes, they're religious, yes, they're doing Torah mitzvahs, but no, they're not really putting themselves into very much. And so when they stand before Kadosh Baruch Hu on Hashanah, it's because that's what Jews do. That's what I'm supposed to do. Do I use the opportunity? Okay, I'm here, I might as well daven. But let's face it, many people, they open the machzor and they say word by word the entire time. They do halachically, the technical halacha is fulfilled, but they're not in there somewhere, right? And here's the point: is that it's like somebody who inherits $1 million and decides it's better to save it and just have it as a figure on their bank book, like they can look at, and live in poverty instead, not have enough food, and the kids are complaining they can't wear good clothes, and it's like the lifestyle is miserable, and they got the money to live differently, but he's so obsessed with keeping it $1 million that he doesn't bother to spend it. And that's what we become. Same way, with tremendous koyach. What people don't realize is that when they capitulate to the body, and they allow the body to dictate a life of comfort, a life that basically is sacrificing this, the spirituality, then as a result of that, they deny themselves a level of life. We talk about survival tactic. We're not talking about living another year more than you're destined to live. Maybe that's possible. I don't know. I'm not saying it's not. As much as I've seen, I don't know all the rules. I don't even understand the rules I've seen up until now. God has his cheshbonos, and God forbid to try and second guess and say what he's going to do. And no. Even with what I've seen things that are question marks to all those things in the end. But one thing I do know for sure, that survival from a Torah perspective, we just saw it at the end of Parshas Tzavi, just a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, right? In Parsha, Hashem says at the end of the Parsha, right? I did all this for you, Torah lo b'shamayim hi, and it's available, and I took it to Mitzrayim, did all these things. B'chayta b'chayim, choose life that you and your children after you should live on the land. Eretz Israel, right? And don't choose the other. So we all darshan this out. It's not a hard thing to ask questions about, like, who's God talking to, a bunch of suicidal men. What do you mean choose life? That's I was doing that until you even came. In Mitzrayim, I wasn't choosing life. Every time I woke up in the morning, I was choosing life, right? Certainly once I became free and I started, do my things, I choose, like in the morning, I'm choosing life. Otherwise, I'd kill myself, God forbid. So what do you mean choose life? Well, the Torah is telling you right there. There's life and there's life. And unfortunately, too many people think that they're living. They often talk about, Gehenna, or at least the last moment of life. I've heard different stories, and I don't know if we can even verify these things. They're just like legends or myths and like that. But the concept is for sure true. There's no question that it's true. How they actually do this, whether it's necessary, we use everyday terms to try to phrase things in a way that we can relate to. So we talk about movies and things like that. But it's been said, I've heard, that just before you die, they play 2 movies. No popcorn, just 2 movies, right? And those 2 movies are basically the life that you lived, and the other one, you've got 2 eyes, you can watch 2 at the same time. The life that you lived and the life that you could have lived. The life that you were the potential you had to live it. What you could have accomplished with your life. And the sense of what I'm watching that I did live, I was comfortable. I was okay. I mean, unless, God forbid, a person is depressed, a person really is suffering because they have no money or they have no life and they're missing things they really want. So every day they get up there in pain, right? The average person who has more or less what they want is comfortable. And they enjoy their life. They go from moment to moment. And today it's much more easy to be comfortable because we have so much to make us comfortable, even that's affordable. And they were okay until their dying day. There's a story that they tell about Eliyahu Navi. It's a medrash. That one day a fisherman's coming back from a major catch, and as he's walking down the street, he's whistling away, and Eliyahu comes up to him. He doesn't know who's Eliyahu, right? He comes up to me and says, my son, I see, wonderful, you're so joyous. Why are you so happy? What's all the simcha for? So he says, Baruch Hashem, from Guy, Baruch Hashem, I had a major, success today catching fish. We don't always get that many fish, but not only did I make enough for today, but even and then some. Right? And he said, great, that's fantastic. I said, did you make time to learn Torah? And he said, no, unfortunately, I don't have the brains for that. Hashem didn't bless me with that. Other people do, not me. Right? And no. He said, well, tell me, how do you fish? How do you fish so successfully? So he starts to describe the whole process about how you make the nets a certain way and the boat goes at a certain time. And everything's an art. Everything's a science. Right? And he describes all this with a big smile on his face and pride and all that. And Eliyahu says, that's wonderful. You really know what you're talking about over here. He said, but tell me, how do you know all this? Oh, for this Hashem blessed me. For Hashem gave me the brains and the wherewithal to understand and to know this, and that's why I'm successful. It's all Hashem. So he says, my son, don't you think that the same God, right? The same God who blessed you in this way, right? That he gave you all this brains and talent to accomplish so much, wouldn't give it to you to learn Torah and do mitzvahs, but learn Torah if you tried, if you asked, if you begged. They say about the Rambam, right? Moshe ben Maimon, the great Rambam, who is like from Moshe to Moshe. There's no Moshe like Moshe. He's compared, in his own right, to Moshe Rabbeinu, and it's not a nevuah, but in greatness. He was, he saved Klal Yisrael with Mishnah Torah. Incredible mind and memory and understanding. But they say about him when he was young, he didn't have all that. Certainly didn't show up yet, and they didn't have much to expect from him. That's what he was told. He told his parents, and he refused to accept that. He couldn't accept it. He wanted to be a Talmid Chacham. He wanted to know Torah. He wanted to be close to Hashem. So one night he goes to the Aron HaKodesh, and there's this little shul. He opens it up. For those that they didn't have locks we have today, right? And he opens the Aron HaKodesh and he davens to Hashem to change his destiny, to give him the koach, the ability to be able to learn Torah. And his Rebbe, one of the who's the Rav of the shul, saw him right do this, and without even seeing any results, whether his tefillos came true or not, he sent him off to learn from one of the Gedolim at the time, and he became a Rambam eventually. Because he said anybody who has a she'ifa like this, anyone who has a drive to learn and to know and is prepared to cry for Hashem, to change that, that's somebody who's destined to become a gadol dor one day. And we got to start with the process now. And he did. And of course, it all became fulfilled. So was it that the Rambam was not going to be a gadol dor one day? He didn't have the towns to become a gadol dor, but because he davened, he prayed, and he put himself out there, and he was Moshe Nefesh to his destiny. All of a sudden, angel, and he goes to be called Yaakov to Yisrael. Was that not going to happen if he hadn't gone back to the would we still be called only Yaakov, B'nai Yaakov, and not Yisrael? Or was that destined to happen, but the process by which it was meant to happen required Yaakov to consciously do something because it didn't really work the same and become what it's meant to become. So Hashem helped with that. He guided him, just like he guides everybody, to do exactly what has to be done, for good or for evil. And based upon what he had to accomplish his role in history. So when a person understands that, you're going to be what you're going to be in the end. And for whatever reason, I could already. He knows that, but for whatever reason, that's the path. But they're still going to show these two videos. But the truth is that more than likely that the person who is destined to become something great, they'll match the video of what they became. It'll be the same thing. The person who wasn't will only have been what they're meant to be in the first place. So then what changed? What's the difference? Because nobody knows what they're meant to be. That's kept from us. Just like the day of our death is kept. It's all, Hashem doesn't say to the person, listen, you're only going to be mediocre. So don't try and be more than you are. So therefore, you can do X, Y, and Z, but don't do more than that. It's going to be a waste of time. And everyone else is studying money, reserves, not you, right? No, doesn't work that way. No one knows. And what's even more amazing, you have stories like the Rambam, where even when we think we know, we think we've read the person, we think we've read ourselves. How many stories you hear? I didn't know I had it within me. But this crisis came along, and I thought to myself, I have no choice. I got to do something. I was thinking, do it? Should I run away, save myself, save somebody else? And something inside, said I had to help out, to save this person's life, to do this kindness. I mean, one of the amazing things you hear about the Twin Towers, the stories that came out, the people spoke, survived, and somebody survived because of other people's kindnesses. People who put themselves at risk because they refused to leave other people behind. And the security guard who was responsible for the security of the Twin Towers, who predicted that there was going to be an air attack at some point in time, right? He could have gotten out. He already saved a lot of people. He actually had people doing exercises once a month to leave the building by the stairwell because there might be an air attack at some point in the future. And it happened exactly as he predicted. And he already got a lot of people out because that's what he was like. He's not going to leave anybody behind. And when he thought there were still people left behind, he went back into the tower. He saved thousands of people already. But when he thought that there were still people left inside the tower, he went back inside, and the tower was collapsed. He died in the process. There's no way. He couldn't live with himself after. That was his greatness from day one. He was destined to be a hero. It was within him, and there were signs of it, just like Pinchas in the Chumash as well, killing Cosby and Zimri. The Torah gives you hints of this, by the way, that he had this greatness, but it was never called upon. It was always in the background, just like most of us. We just get called upon for that moment. And success or failure at that moment that we're called upon it's not a question in the end of disappointing God. He already knows what's going to happen. You can't disappoint God. He knows what's going to happen already. The only one you can disappoint is yourself. On Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, right? There's a concept in Kabbalah called Shviras HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels that God did prior to creation, one of the most Kabbalistic ideas, and then he built everything from the bottom up. There's this idea, right, in Midas development and Kabbalah in general, of how sometimes you have to go back to square one. Because that's the only way to build yourself up. Because like a bumper car, we get knocked this way, we get knocked that way. We have family, we have friends, we have jobs. There's so many things influencing the way we grow up, the way we live. So many factors in life that we didn't ask for, but they were there. And we lose ourselves in all of that. And by losing ourselves, we lose track of what we're meant to do, what we're meant to accomplish, what we can accomplish. And we become mediocre like the average person around us. And I see some great people accomplishing great things, and we all admire them. And we think to ourselves, wow, they're amazing. But we don't necessarily transfer that to ourselves. Because if I was great, I'd be great like him or her. But I'm not, so therefore I'm only mediocre. This self-perception, that's what we're changing. That's really that's what Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is about, and that's really the secret of survival in this world, regardless of how long you live, because survival is not determined by how many years you live. It's determined by what you've accomplished, how much of yourself you were able to become, to actually live, how much living you did in the time that you lived. That's the true survival. The Torah says, choose life. Don't just exist, but live. Living meaning become who you're meant to be, who you're destined to become. Well, what is that? Who am I? Well, we've got this self-perception we've been developing over the years. I'm only this type of a person. I'm not tzaddik. I'm not someone who davens every hour. Look, every night I go to daven Mari. I'm one of the first to finish. I daven shachris. I don't really. That's my self-perception. Am I capable of more? 100%. Some people even make a point on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur to daven more. They see they're capable, but to get myself to do it all year round, it's a lot of effort. But don't think about it. Just do it. Just, Hashem will help. Habala teher, Messiah so. You make the decision. Shemaim will help. Don't worry about the technical aspects of whether you'll have the resources to do it, the strength to do it. It's amazing how you can survive, how you can accomplish so much more. But the ratzon, the will to do that, that's all from you. That's the essence of surviving in this world. Because the Yetzer Hara, the goof, the body, the Sitra Achra, Taiva, Teva, whatever you want to call it, Esav, it's all, I'm like clawing away, trying to bring us back down to earth and to become part of the earth. Because that's where we came from, that's where we're going to go back to. But we don't have to. We can rise above it all and become so much greater than we are. But that depends upon how you look at yourself, how you perceive yourself. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, this is when we get a chance to do Shviras HaKelim, to break ourselves down, to get to the essence of who we are and rebuild from scratch. But hopefully after taking the veils off and discovering the inner essence of our very being, which you should know, most people die without not knowing, but not even knowing to go look for it. They just assume, like everybody else, that what I am is what I am. It is what it is. It's like two people look at the world. One person sees God and one person doesn't see God. The person who doesn't see God has no problem with that, because they figure if God was there to be seen, they would see them. So if I don't see him, means I already see enough, and he's not there. But he doesn't. There's so much more to see. He doesn't understand. He lacks the ability to be able to see. The person sees God, knows more. So that's the survival tactic. How to survive this world. Whatever life you're going to have, whatever Hashem has decided for you to have, how to maximize the amount of life you can get out of it, that's up to us. You have to break it down, get to the essence of who you are, change your self-perception, improve your self-perception, look at yourself at a much higher level, and you will begin to live up to that, and then you'll begin to live like you never have until now. So, Gemar Chasim Tova, B'ezras Hashem, and we'll see you after Sukkot.
Rabbi, thank you so much for always inspiring us with your beautiful Torah, and hope we can all take it to heart to look deeply into ourselves and accept who we are. I think that's what you're saying. Accept who you are and work with it. Break yourself down to where you need to. Not to beat yourself up, though.
Bring yourself up to where you need to.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a Shana Tova and a happy, healthy New Year and an easy fast and a good Shabbat. And thank you, Rabbi Winston, again for one wonderful shiur. We hope to see you next year. Thank you.